bring you an update, though, on this story that we've been following, as well as the U.S. Coast Guard has ended their search for a Louisiana teenager who went overboard during a sunset cruise in the Bahamas on Wednesday night. You're taking a look at that teen here. The United Cajun Navy spokesperson, one of them, spoke on America Reports this morning. Want to bring you that conversation here now.
Sandra, the search for a Louisiana teenager who apparently jumped from a cruise ship, a small one, in the Bahamas on a dare, has been called off. The Cajun Navy has been involved in that search and has been in constant contact with the family. Brian Trasher is a spokesman for the Rescue and Disaster Relief Group. Brian, good to have you back on, although what looks like a tragic circumstance here. Let me just lay this out for folks at home who might not have followed it over the weekend. Cameron Robbins was an 18-year-old from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He just graduated high school. He'd been a baseball player on the U-High team. Apparently, he was out on this pirate ship Sunset Cruise just off of the coast of Paradise Island, the east coast of Paradise Island, and for some reason jumped into the water. Do we have any idea how this circumstance unfolded and why?
So the circumstances around why Cameron went into the water are still being investigated. There's obviously a lot of reports out there from eyewitnesses that there might have been some kind of a dare or somebody egging him on. I can't confirm any of that, but I know it's still being investigated. But nevertheless, he did end up in the water. He was in the water for several minutes and did not, unfortunately, make it to the life ring. They threw him and, according to some videos that we've seen, disappeared shortly after that.
Yeah, when you take a look at that video, and unfortunately we don't have rights to air that video, but we can describe it. He's in the water there. Again, the word is that he voluntarily jumped in after somebody dared him. Somebody said, hey, throw him a life ring. And you see the life ring out there. He appears to be a pretty strong swimmer. I mean, he was an athlete. Didn't seem to be having any trouble in the water. And then suddenly he starts drifting away and he's gone. Do we know if it was the current? Because he seemed to be going in the opposite direction of the life ring. And you would think the current would take anything that's floating in the same direction. Was there some other circumstance that might have taken him out of the field of vision of folks on that boat?
So you're correct. He was an athlete. He's a very fit young man. The video that I saw showed him looked like he was taking a casual swim in a swimming pool. And it looked like he was going toward the life ring and for some reason turned around, started swimming away from it. It could have been that he was being carried away by a current. That channel right there south of Valto Island is known to have strong currents. There was some inclement weather that blew up while they were out there, so it could have been a squall line that came through. There's just so much speculation out there. We're still waiting for the U.S. Coast Guard and the Royal Bahamas Navy to conclude all their findings and sort of compile all the eyewitness testimony they took over the last week. And I'm sure eventually they'll put out a final report, and we'll wait and see what that says.
Yeah, the U.S. Coast Guard out of Miami jumped right into action and teamed up with the Royal Bahamas Defence Forces and launched a search by air while the Bahamas Defence Forces were on the water. They published this grid in just the last day or so. You can see the extent of the search here as it comes up on the screen. That's Nassau, the big island there. Paradise Island is just on the northeast of that. Atoll Island, it's right in the middle of that dark area, the most intense area of search. They also went north of that into what quickly becomes very deep water as the tongue of the ocean starts to wrap around the top of Nassau there. You're talking 6,000 to 8,000 feet of water. I mean, this was a huge search area, and yet nothing turned up.
It really was. Yeah, I can't say enough about what the Coast Guard and the Royal Bahamas Navy, as well as a lot of volunteers that the United Cajun Navy had recruited after Hurricane Dorian that we got in touch with. People went out with private vessels and private aircraft and went and looked on their own. It was a very extensive search, and unfortunately, it did not turn up successful.
Yeah, Todd Terrell, who's the director of the Cajun Navy, put out this statement. He said, quote, "I hope we were able to bring closure to the family and friends of Cameron by knowing everyone did everything possible to locate him. Not every search in large waterway areas results in a recovery, but knowing so many people dropped everything on a holiday weekend to help with the search is a positive way to bring closure to families and friends." It sounds like Todd doesn't have a whole lot of hope that Cameron may be found.
Well, Todd was born and raised in Baton Rouge, and when he was first called about it, it became very personal to him, and he really wanted to find that young man. But again, we arranged for a charter boat to take the parents out to the area where he went overboard and some of the search areas, made sure they had some lodging while they were there, and they decided to return to Baton Rouge on Sunday after we were not successful in locating Cameron. We never give up hope. But you know, the Coast Guard called up their search, and you know, we've suspended physical operations, but we're still, you know, participating in some investigatory operations.
Such a tragedy. I can't imagine what the family's going through. But you know, great work that your organization does, Brian, and we're always pleased to bring attention to the United Cajun Navy. You guys pitch in when so many others wouldn't.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Look, we just celebrated Memorial Day for the veterans that didn't come home, but there's still a lot of veterans that did come home who the government's not taking very good care of. And this weekend in Vero Beach, Florida, we have a music festival called Vet Fest, and we're raising money for veterans as well as for the United Cajun Navy. So if anybody's in that area and wants to come see some good bands and have a good time, look up on etix.com and look up the Vet Fest in Vero Beach. We appreciate it.
Sounds like Vero Beach is the place to be this coming weekend. Brian, as always, thanks so much. Appreciate you coming on.
Okay, so that was that update from America Reports this morning of 18-year-old Cameron Robbins, who had just graduated from high school and was on that celebratory boat ride with several hundred students. We'll continue to follow any details, any updates with this one as well.